Hey everyone, welcome back to the Soundbyte. My name is Andrew, and today we're going to be jumping into some Typo Negative today because it's Halloween, and Typo Negative is really one of those bands that kind of really represent a lot of Halloween stuff. They do a lot of Halloween kind of songs. So I'm going to be doing a song today called All Hallows Eve, which is I think is kind of it typifies a lot of the stuff that they do in regards to Halloween. Halloween is one of my favorite days of the year. It's a tremendous holiday. It should be a national holiday for in all countries, in my opinion. Just because I'm a big horror fan. But Type of Negative just does this kind of stuff really well, and I've been a fan of the band for a long time, and I know fairly, for the most part, a lot of their songs, especially this particular track. So it's not really a first time reaction here at all. But I thought, because it's Halloween, let's do something Halloween related. And I was kind of racking my brain and what song to do for this one, videos and stuff like that. And I just kept coming back to Typo Negative, and I have been listening to a lot of their stuff lately, actually. So I kind of felt like, okay, let's just do this and just sort of jump into the song a little bit as well, and sort of and find out, what Type of Negative was really all about because, I was a fan of their music and all that stuff and Peter Steele and things like that, but I never really kind of got to know who the band really was and all that kind of thing. So let's get into it today. This is All Hallows Eve here on Halloween, Typo Negative. They just have such a great sound. Yeah, it's just a shame that they're no longer around anymore. Rest in peace, Peter Steele.
Consumed with howls and screams, pumpkins grin in their despair. Oh.
I love that. He has such a unique style. I'm going to pause it right there. It is a fairly long song, 8.5 minutes. Type of Negative do tend to put out really long songs, for some reason. I've always felt like, and like this is not really a criticism too much, I guess. It is in some ways, but I always felt like some of the songs were kind of dragged out a little bit too long. With Type of Negative, I don't think some of the songs could have. Necessarily had to be 10 minutes long and stuff like that. I kind of felt like there's definitely a lot of space for cutting and stuff, but this particular track kind of stays with you a lot, and it definitely has a lot of the great elements that Type of Negative certainly bring. Peter Steele's voice has always been one of the main attractions of the band, and certainly in this case it's no different. He's always got that sort of unique style of singing, that really deep voice. And he does sort of vary it up a little bit from song to song with that sort of voice as well. He kind of goes real sort of deep, and then other times he kind of just they do tend to rock out kind of bit sometimes. They do a lot of fast stuff here and there, and his voice sort of matches with that as well. But the best stuff is when he does this kind of thing, the slower kind of stuff, and he's got that real deep voice. Yeah, this is a really I always felt this was one of the great songs for Halloween. And the song's not necessarily about Halloween. From what I remember, I think the song was something about bringing back the dead or whatever. I think. Let me know in the comments if you know exactly what the song's about. But I remember something about like bringing back the dead and trading spirits or doing a deal with the devil, something like that. I mean, it's kind of what Type of Negative do anyway. It's a lot of that sort of dark stuff. But this song still, to me, always represented a lot of the Halloween kind of stuff. Especially with parties and playing Halloween music. This had to be on the playlist. It was one of those great tracks. It's a shame there's no video for it. I couldn't find any videos. There was no official music video at all for it. So I kind of just had to do just an audio, which is great. Sometimes I like to just listen to the track and not be sort of distracted by the video. But I'm sure there'd be some great stuff if there was a music video for this one, because yeah, the Type of Negative's videos have been pretty interesting as well. So anyway, let's get back into it, because yeah, it's one of the songs that I always play on Halloween. I just absolutely love it. And like I said, I've been a fan of Type of Negative for a long time, and this is a great track for Halloween.
I be the place, but then nothing is free. My soul I'll gladly free.
It was like a Christmas Carol, but for Halloween. Any kind of darker later. Yeah, the way that comes across, it's definitely got that sort of, you got all these songs for Christmas, and this is one of the songs for Halloween. It's just got that sort of vibe about it. That dynamic again.
Hallows Eve.
That dynamic again, that Type of Negative do really well. And there's been a few bands that I've obviously checked out here on the channel that does that kind of real quiet, and then kind of goes into that heavy part. I've been obviously doing a lot of Led Zeppelin, and that kind of reminds me of that. And I kind of feel like, listening to Led Zeppelin, that's kind of that band kind of led the way for this kind of stuff, because that sort of became a real big thing in the 90s as well, like sort of dynamic between the sort of real quiet and the heavy. And yeah, just sort of going down the Led Zeppelin rabbit hole, I've realized that Led Zeppelin kind of led the way for a lot of that sort of style of writing, So, but yeah, Type of Negative have always done that, and they've done that really, really well. And it's a weird thing to sort of see sometimes because it's not really a common thing now to see it sort of hear real quiet moments in music. Everything's got to be sort of filled and there's always, it's got to be always moving along. So Type of Negative definitely do the quiet sequences in the songs really, really well.
Saint Lucifer, he came praying to thee on this eve of all saints. High be the price, but then nothing is free. My soul I'll gladly free. Hallows Eve.
Yeah, there's definitely a real cool vibe about Type of Negative. They've always got this sort of way where the music's kind of got that sort of new wavy kind of like obviously gothy, it's kind of big in the goth world, but like it's got that sort of real sound, the 80s kind of sound in there. That's sort of a lot of that synth wave kind of stuff. That kind of gives it that real atmospheric kind of sound. Obviously, that's what's perfect for for Halloween, but that was kind of what represented a lot of their sound. It was kind of their signature, and there was always a vibe about it that I always kind of got attracted to, and I think a lot of people sort of feel the same as well. I think that sound. There's something about it that kind of just it sort of invokes a lot of emotions and all that kind of stuff. It's really cool, and it's just a different kind of way of putting out heavy music, I guess you could say, even though they weren't always a heavy band, but they certainly were considered a heavy band. Certainly a lot of metalheads are into them for sure. The old fade outs. We've discussed that many times on this channel. Again, something that just sort of has disappeared over the years a little bit. Um, but yeah, well, a fantastic song, fantastic band, and yeah, World Coming Down is the album that came out in 1999, and I always felt like this song even though it was kind of well into their career and it was well out of the 80s, it still had that kind of 80s sort of vibe about it, you know. Like I said before, it's got kind of one of their signature sounds. A particular style that they have is what I really like about them. It's just it's unique to in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of that really does come down to Peter Steele's voice, I think. But just the rest of the sounds that they sort of come up with is fantastic. That's a great track, though. All Hallows Eve obviously represents, in my opinion, a lot of the Halloween sort of, celebrations and stuff. So even though the song's not necessarily about the actual holiday itself, but let me know in the comments if you know more about the story behind the song itself. All I know is that there was something about, sort of bringing back the dead or something like that, I think. So, which is obviously, tied into the sort of Halloween spirit, I guess you could say. But anyway, happy Halloween to everyone out there. So please, let me know if there's any other sort of Halloween tracks you want me to check out, even if it's post Halloween or whatever. We can certainly do that for sure. And let me know your favorite Halloween track. You know, if you have a party or whatever, what's your favorite Halloween song? Thank you for tuning in as always, and please subscribe if you haven't. Thank you to those who have subscribed, and I will see you in the next video.